No, I don't think it's necessarily the warning. I mean, I think Julia's right. I think it's important and prudent for them to point that out. We obviously have others that have been talking about it. I think the reason that the stock's off a bit, it's had a big run into the print. And, if you look at guidance was for revenues was about 4% better. Overall, looks like, revenues overall were about 6% better. DAUs were only, user growth was, relatively in line. So I just don't think it was sort of that monster beat that everyone was expecting. However, I would point out that the most important geography, North America, was very strong. That was up 11% or better, consensus by 11% of revenues, and ARPU roughly by 10%. So that's what we really focus on. But as I mentioned, the overall revenues were maybe not quite as strong. Europe was not quite as strong as North America, but still nice beat there. In terms of Apple, I think it's prudent for them to point that out. I know that, to their point, we haven't really seen the impacts from it yet because it hasn't been enforced. It will be enforced by the end of March, so we're going to need to see just how much consent platforms are getting from their users. And that's really going to tell us, how it's going to affect, ad returns.
Well, we saw a monster beat, Mark, from Google on the advertising side. Does Snap immediately benefit from the same themes, or only if they keep innovating in a sort of permanent chase with their biggest rivals, Facebook?
Yeah, great question. Well, I would say Snap sort of sits on its own island, just given the fact that they predominantly focus on Gen Z. So they do, obviously, benefit by the same macro events that are sort of driving advertising, and certainly commerce, certainly is driving a lot more advertising to their platform as well as others in social. But I think for Snapchat, what I've been focusing on is really the brands. Across social, we tend to focus on direct response and performance advertisers. For instance, at Facebook, that's 80% of their revenues by our estimates. At Snapchat, that's only about half. So half of their revenues coming from brands, and we saw a big uptick last quarter after a hiatus, really, from brands. And Snapchat's really catering very well to brands. And like I said, they're the only ones that really have that sort of captive 90 million user base in the U.S. To target.
Mark Skotovich, thanks so much for joining us.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.